You collapse into bed, exhausted, eyes shut, body still. But 6 hours later, you wake up feeling like you never slept at all, but your fitness tracker says you got 7 hours. The problem is not how long you slept. The problem is what happened inside your brain while you thought you were resting. Deep sleep. Stage 3. The slow-wave state where your brain washes out toxic proteins, consolidates memories, repairs tissue, strengthens immunity. Most people get 20 to 25% of their night in this stage, but something is stealing it quietly, relentlessly, and you would not know unless you measured your brainwaves, even healthy in some cases. But stack them together, and you have built a perfect system for obliterating the most restorative phase of sleep your body needs. The data is brutal. A 2025 Nature study tracking over 23 million nights of sleep across 214,000 people in China found that for every 10 degrees Celsius increase in ambient temperature, deep sleep dropped by 2.82 minutes per night. Under the worst-case climate scenario, sleep insufficiency could rise 10% by the end of the century, costing each person 33 hours of annual sleep. A 2024 Oregon Health and Science University analysis of CDC data from 2019 to 2025 found sleep duration correlates with life expectancy more strongly than diet, physical activity, or social isolation. Only smoking showed a greater influence. Deep sleep is not optional, it is survival. At half years, with objective Fitbit data linked to electronic health records, and the Journal of Biomedical Physics and Engineering's June 2024 Comprehensive Review on Blue Light and Circadian Function from Shiraz University's Department of Medical Physics. These are not lifestyle blogs. These are peer-reviewed physiological studies measuring actual sleep architecture with polysomnography and wearable biometrics. Now back to the information. The suprachiasmatic nucleus signals your pineal gland. Stop producing melatonin. Stay awake. It does not matter that it is 10 at night. Your brain thinks it is noon. A 2024 study in chronobiology and medicine found that blue light exposure before bedtime creates circadian disruptions and inhibits melatonin secretion in the brain, resulting in deteriorated sleep quality and duration. The study specifically noted that sleep deprivation in both duration and quality reflects negative effects on mood, learning, memory, and academic performance. Harvard researchers conducted an experiment comparing 6.5 hours of blue light exposure to green light of comparable brightness. The blue light suppressed melatonin for about twice as long as green light and shifted circadian rhythms by twice as much. 3 hours versus 1.5 hours. That is not a minor delay. That is your entire sleep architecture collapsing backward. When you finally do fall asleep, you spend less time in deep, slow-wave stages and more time in fragmented light sleep. Melatonin normally rises in the evening to facilitate sleep onset. Suppression delays your circadian phase and increases sleep onset latency. A 2025 review in Frontiers in Neurology, published in October, analyzed the efficacy of blue light blocking glasses on objective sleep outcomes, measured by actigraphic data. The researchers noted that widespread evening exposure to short wavelength blue-enriched light from electronic screens suppresses melatonin secretion, delays sleep onset, and alters circadian rhythms. For individuals with insomnia, circadian rhythm disorders, or irregular schedules, nighttime light exposure further exacerbates sleep disturbances. Blue light, in the 460 to 480 nanometer range, is the primary stimulus. When activated in the evening, these cells signal the suprachiasmatic nucleus to inhibit pineal melatonin secretion. As melatonin normally rises in the evening to facilitate sleep, its suppression by blue light delays circadian phase and increases sleep onset latency. The problem is short wavelength light at high intensity during hours when your brain expects darkness. Even yellow light or medium brightness, normal lighting after a certain hour is equivalent to dim blue light in terms of circadian disruption. The solution is not blue blocking glasses. The solution is darkness. Total reduction of light exposure after sunset. 8 lux. That is the threshold. A level of brightness exceeded by most table lamps and about twice that of a nightlight. Even that has measurable effects on melatonin suppression and circadian rhythm disruption. Research from a 2024 systematic review published in PubMed examining light exposure impact on human circadian rhythm found that a 2-hour exposure to blue light at 460 nanometers in the evening suppresses melatonin, with maximum suppression occurring at 424 nanometers in the violet range. Melatonin concentration recovered within 15 minutes from cessation of exposure, suggesting a short-term impact. But if you are scrolling your phone for 2 hours before bed, that recovery never happens. But caffeine has a half-life of 3 to 6 hours depending on your genetics. That means if you consume 240 milligrams of caffeine at 3 in the afternoon, you still have 120 milligrams circulating in your bloodstream at 9 at night. A 2024 study published in Sleep, conducted by Australian Catholic University researchers, used a placebo-controlled, double-blind randomized crossover design with 23 males who consumed 100 milligrams or 400 milligrams of caffeine at 12 hours, 8 hours, or 4 hours before bedtime. The results were clear. A typical dose of 100 milligrams can be consumed up to 4 hours prior to bedtime without significant effect on sleep. But to mitigate caffeine-induced sleep disruptions, avoid consuming 400 milligrams within 12 hours of bedtime. 400 milligrams is roughly 4 cups of brewed coffee. Many people exceed that daily. When the caffeine finally wears off, all that accumulated adenosine crashes into your receptors at once. You feel exhausted, so you drink more caffeine. The cycle reinforces. A 2024 to 2025 study called Sleep Smart, conducted at LMU Hospital Munich from July 2024 to January 2025, investigated caffeine intake via coffee and energy drinks. Participants consumed an equivalent of 240 milligrams of caffeine 3 hours before sleep over a 7-day period. The study used wearable devices and self-administered questionnaires. While the primary endpoint of sleep duration showed no significant difference, the study noted that objective measures included duration of light sleep, deep sleep, duration of wake phases, and heart rate. Even caffeine consumed 6 hours before bedtime can disrupt sleep patterns compared to placebos. High doses of caffeine reduce total sleep time and shift normal sleep architecture, leading to increased wakefulness at night and decreased deep sleep. The researchers found an interrelationship between caffeine and alcohol that appears contradictory. When individuals consumed caffeine but subsequently consumed alcohol in the evening, the otherwise detrimental impact of caffeine on sleep amount was prevented, leading to a modest increase in overall sleep duration compared to consuming caffeine alone. The sedative alcohol following daytime stimulant caffeine placated the negative impact of caffeine on sleep amount. But this is not a solution. Alcohol fragments sleep architecture in different ways. The body's response to caffeine is highly individual, influenced by genetic factors and the ability to metabolize it. This variability means some individuals experience significant sleep disruption, while others may not be as affected. Over time, regular caffeine consumption leads to tolerance, requiring higher doses to achieve the desired alertness. A 2025 study published in Sleep Science using Mendelian randomization and causal matching methods found consistent evidence that high habitual caffeine use reduces total sleep time and increases delta power. High caffeine use was defined as 4 or more caffeinated beverages per day. The study analyzed over 6,000 participants and found that caffeine intake causally reduces sleep duration. A 2025 study published by the Sleep Foundation in October noted that alcohol may make you feel sleepy initially, but it disrupts normal sleep patterns, leading to lighter, less restorative rest and more frequent awakenings. Alcohol reduces REM sleep, the stage linked to memory and emotional processing, which contributes to fatigue and poor focus the next day. Drinking before bed can worsen snoring and sleep apnea by relaxing the muscles in the throat and narrowing the airway. To promote better sleep quality, experts recommend avoiding alcohol within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime. 50 to 60% of Americans drink alcohol according to a 2025 Gallup poll. Many drink in the hours before bedtime, either at dinner or while socializing. Alcohol affects the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It can increase the likelihood of experiencing parasomnias, unusual behaviors or sensations during sleep, such as sleepwalking, vivid dreams, or sleep paralysis. These disturbances occur because alcohol disrupts the brain's normal regulation of sleep stages, particularly REM sleep, when most dreaming and muscle paralysis occur. Alcohol use and dependence interfere with circadian rhythms. Evidence suggests consuming alcohol decreases the body's sensitivity to cues like daylight and darkness, which trigger shifts in body temperature and secretion of the sleep hormone melatonin. These fluctuations play a vital role in the sleep-wake cycle. When they are weakened or absent, a person may feel alert when they want to sleep and sleepy when they want to be awake. A January 2025 study published in Rupa Health noted that alcohol can affect sleep architecture and the body's circadian rhythm. Drinking alcohol, especially before bed, might feel like it helps you drift off faster due to its initial sedative effects. It decreases the time it takes to fall asleep and increases NREM sleep during the first part of the night. However, this benefit is fleeting. As the night progresses and the body metabolizes the alcohol, sleep patterns are disrupted. The findings supported the hypothesis of increased pulse release of nocturnal cortisol under the insomniac condition. Alcohol consumption consistently rated as lower subjective sleep quality. Evening alcohol consumption increases nighttime awakenings and sleep fragmentation. Independent of caffeine, subjective sleep quality is consistently rated as lower following alcohol consumption. The disruptive effects of alcohol on sleep remain significant on a day-to-day basis in real-world settings, even after controlling for person-specific variations in consumption, previous night's sleep, consumption differences between weekdays and weekends, and caffeine consumption. Since drinking alcoholic beverages is a voluntary behavior, real-world data serve as reaffirming motivational evidence that minimizing alcohol consumption in service of improving sleep is an actionable insight. Researchers used wearable sleep monitors and environmental sensors to assess sleep duration, efficiency, and restlessness over an extended period within participants' homes. The findings demonstrated that sleep was most efficient and restful when nighttime ambient temperature ranged between 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, equivalent to 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. A clinically relevant 5 to 10% drop in sleep efficiency occurred when temperature increased from 25 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. The associations were primarily nonlinear, and substantial between-subject variations were observed. Participants across mainland China. The researchers investigated how daily average temperature affected sleep using sleep monitoring data. For each 10 degrees Celsius increase in ambient temperature, the odds of sleep insufficiency increased by 20.1%, while total sleep duration decreased by 9.67 minutes. Deep sleep declined the most, dropping by 2.82 minutes. Projections under the unrestricted greenhouse gas emission scenario suggest that by the end of the century, sleep insufficiency could rise by 10.5%, with an annual loss of 33.28 hours of sleep per person. Heat exposure causes more frequent wakefulness and reduces both deep sleep and REM sleep stages. REM sleep is most frequently cut short due to overheating. When the environment is too warm, the release of heat from your feet and hands to the air decreases. Your core cannot properly lower its temperature for quality sleep, and you are stirred awake. The optimal temperature for toddlers and kids is a couple of degrees warmer, while adults over 65 need even warmer temperatures. A 2025 review published in Indoor Air examining sleep quality and indoor environmental factors noted that moderate thermal environments generally ranging between 18 to 22 degrees Celsius support sleep continuity in most healthy adults, though optimal thresholds may vary by age, region, and season. The relationship between body temperature and sleep is driven by circadian rhythm. About 2 hours before bedtime, the body begins to cool down, signaling that it is time to sleep. This physiological process prepares the body for the onset of deep sleep, essential for cognitive function, memory consolidation, and overall well-being. If your sleeping environment is too warm, it disrupts this natural cooling process, leading to fragmented sleep and frequent awakenings. A cooler room supports the body's natural thermoregulation, making it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. Participants from the Korean Community Health Survey 2018. Temperature difference was defined as the difference between yearly average temperature and climate normal derived from 1961 to 1990. Urban participants were more likely to report poor sleep quality per 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature difference, with an adjusted odds ratio of 1.16. Excessive warmth leads to frequent awakenings throughout the night, preventing deep and restorative sleep. The body requires a cooler environment to enter slow-wave sleep, the deep sleep phase crucial for brain health and memory consolidation. Research suggests keeping the thermostat between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 to 19 degrees Celsius for optimal sleep conditions. A 2025 study by 8 Sleep analyzing their community data in 2024 found that cooler environments promote longer deep and REM sleep phases. Puerto Rico favored the coldest settings, leveraging cooler temperatures to boost deep and REM sleep. The 40 to 49 age group achieved the highest average sleep fitness score of 80% in 2024. High-intensity interval training, heart rate spiking, sweat pouring. You feel accomplished, but your sympathetic nervous system is now in overdrive. A 2025 Nature Communications study published in October examined the dose-response relationship between evening exercise and sleep using data from 14,689 physically active individuals who wore a biometric device during a one-year study interval. 4,084,354 person nights of data. The results showed that later exercise timing and higher exercise strain are associated with delayed sleep onset, shorter sleep duration, lower sleep quality, higher nocturnal resting heart rate, and lower nocturnal heart rate variability. Regardless of strain, exercise bouts ending 4 or more hours before sleep onset are not associated with changes in sleep. Evening exercise, particularly involving high exercise strain, may disrupt subsequent sleep and nocturnal autonomic function. The study, led by Monash University researchers, found that exercising 4 hours or less before bedtime was linked to falling asleep later, getting less and worse quality sleep, and having a higher resting heart rate and lower heart rate variability. Tracker data confirmed that strenuous evening exercise significantly elevated nocturnal resting heart rates and reduced heart rate variability. In some cases, heart rates remained elevated well into the night, while heart rate variability, a key indicator of parasympathetic nervous system recovery, remained low. Both metrics suggest delayed autonomic recovery, meaning the body stays in a revved up state that makes it harder to fall and stay asleep. Workouts completed within 4 hours of sleep onset were consistently associated with delayed sleep and reduced total sleep time. Participants who exercised close to bedtime lost up to 43 minutes of sleep compared to those who exercised earlier in the day. Increased rectal temperature during nocturnal sleep and decreased the duration of REM sleep in healthy males. Melatonin offset was delayed compared to the pre-exercise baseline. The decrease in core body temperature at night is mainly attributed to an increase in heat loss from the skin of the extremities. Late evening exercise prevented a decrease in core body temperature at night, possibly through sympathetic nerve activation, supported by changes in nocturnal heart rate variability. Peripheral vasodilation, mediated by the autonomic nervous system, contributes to nocturnal heat loss. Evening exercise significantly increased heart rate during sleep, whereas morning exercise did not. Heart rate is stimulated by sympathetic nerve activation, and 2 hours of evening exercise may continuously stimulate the sympathetic nervous system several hours after exercise. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Sleep Research compared morning and evening exercise effects on sleep. 13 recreational runners performed a 45 to 60-minute run at 70% maximal aerobic velocity, either in the morning, 30 minutes to 2 hours after waking up, or in the evening, 2 hours to 30 minutes before sleep. Compared with rest, both morning and evening exercise increased time spent in non-rapid eye movement sleep by 24.9 minutes and 22.7 minutes respectively. Longer NREM duration was mainly due to sleep stage 2 extension. No other effects on objective or subjective sleep were observed. Exercise, independently of the time at which it takes place, leads to extended NREM sleep without other effects on sleep quality. However, this study involved moderate exercise ending at least 30 minutes before sleep. The critical window is 4 hours for high-intensity exercise. If you need to exercise late at night, choose brief low-intensity exercises such as a light jog or swim to minimize sleep disruption and allow the body to wind down. The general recommendation to avoid intense exercise within 4 hours of bedtime is warranted to promote sleep health. Your stress does not end when you leave the office. It follows you home, sits in your chest, races through your thoughts. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activates. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Cortisol is supposed to follow a predictable daily pattern. High in the morning to help you wake up and get going, then gradually declining throughout the day to allow for relaxation and sleep. A 2025 study published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B found that waking up does not activate an increase in the release of cortisol. Cortisol does increase in the hours prior to awakening as part of the body's preparation for the next day. For many years, it was generally accepted that waking up results in a stimulus to release cortisol, a phenomenon called the cortisol awakening response. But researchers used an automated sampling system to measure tissue cortisol levels both before and after awakening in 201 healthy participants aged 18 to 68. The researchers found awakening did not result in an increase in cortisol release, with no evidence for a change in the rate of cortisol increase in the hour after waking when compared with the hour prior to waking. Any change in cortisol levels immediately after waking are much more likely to be the tail end of the daily rhythm of cortisol, which starts increasing in the early hours of the morning and reaches a peak shortly after habitual wake time. A 2024 study examining chronic insomnia disorder found that in patients, nocturnal cortisol and copeptin levels were statistically different at different time points, with higher cortisol at morning waking up relative to deep sleep, pre-sleep, and 5-minute waking. Cortisol at 30-minute waking was higher relative to deep sleep and pre-sleep. Cortisol was lowest at deep sleep and highest at long-time waking during sleep. The findings support the hypothesis of increased pulse release of nocturnal cortisol under the insomniac condition. High evening cortisol makes it harder to fall asleep, reduces sleep quality, and leads to more fragmented sleep. This creates a vicious cycle where poor sleep leads to elevated cortisol, which leads to worse sleep. Research published in October 2025, examining cortisol level elevations, found that after sleep deprivation, cortisol levels remain elevated during evening hours when they should naturally be declining in preparation for sleep. Sleep deprivation produces significant elevations in evening cortisol levels, with increases of 37 to 45% compared to normal sleep conditions. This elevation occurs during evening hours, typically 1800 to 2200 hours, when cortisol should naturally be declining to prepare the body for sleep. Healthy participants aged 20 to 41 were scheduled to a 25-day laboratory entrainment protocol that resulted in sleep and circadian disruption. Circadian misalignment affects sleep architecture and may reduce total sleep time. Both advanced and delayed phases result in disruption of the normal phase relationship between slow-wave sleep and REM sleep. During the first day of an 8-hour phase delay, profound disruptions in the 24-hour cortisol rhythm were found, with a higher nadir value mediated by the lack of inhibitory effects caused by sleep onset, and lower acrophase values due to the lack of the stimulus from sleep. High cortisol levels may cause chronic insomnia. Research shows patients with insomnia without depression have high cortisol levels, especially in the evening and when they go to sleep. Excess HPA axis activation may cause insomnia or keep chronic insomnia going. This disruption results in abnormal cortisol secretion patterns, with elevated evening levels and lowered morning peaks, forming a reinforcing cycle. These cortisol imbalances result in impaired sleep quality by increasing sleep latency, decreasing sleep duration, and decreasing restorative slow-wave sleep. A bidirectional relationship takes place when poor sleep quality triggers an increase in stress reactivity and further disrupts the cortisol. Rhythm. Related to the HPA axis, cardiovascular health disorders can be caused by the combined effect of poor sleep and cortisol impairment, which result in increased sympathetic activity, reduced parasympathetic tone, heightened systemic inflammation, and endothelial dysfunction. Cortisol levels are significantly higher before day shifts and after night shifts in 12-hour shifts compared to 8-hour shifts. Most shift workers sleep less than the recommended 8 hours, leading to circadian disruption, which may reduce work performance. Sleep duration, stages, and irregularity were associated with incidence of obesity and a number of cardiovascular and psychological disorders. Rapid eye movement sleep and deep sleep were inversely associated with the odds of incident atrial fibrillation. Poor sleep health is associated with increased all-cause mortality and incidence of many chronic conditions. The median age was 50.2 years, and the median sleep monitoring period was 4.5 years. Sleep patterns, including sleep stages, duration, and regularity, are associated with chronic disease incidence. This was not self-reported data. This was objective measured longitudinal sleep data from commercial wearable devices linked to electronic health record data. Deep sleep matters. It is not about feeling rested. It is about preventing disease. Smoking was the only factor that showed a greater influence. The senior author from Oregon Health and Science University stated they did not expect it to be so strongly correlated to life expectancy. The research drives home the point that people really should strive to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. A good night's sleep does more than help you feel rested. It may literally clear your mind. A 2025 study showed how deep sleep may wash away waste buildup in the brain during waking hours. Deep sleep is when your lymphatic system activates. Cerebrospinal fluid flushes through your brain, washing out beta amyloid and tau proteins that accumulate during waking hours. These are the same proteins that form plaques in Alzheimer's disease. Without sufficient deep sleep, these toxic proteins accumulate. Sleep occurs in 5 stages: wake, N1, N2, N3, and REM. Stages N1 to N3 are considered non-rapid eye movement sleep, with each stage leading to progressively deeper sleep. Approximately 75% of sleep is spent in NREM stages, with the majority spent in N2 stage. A typical night's sleep consists of 4 to 5 sleep cycles, with progression of sleep stages in the following order: N1, N2, N3, N2, or REM. A complete sleep cycle takes roughly 90 to 110 minutes. The first REM period is short, and as the night progresses, longer periods of REM and decreased time in deep sleep occur. Stage 3 sleep is also known as N3 or deep sleep. Muscle tone, pulse, and breathing rate decrease in N3 sleep. Brain activity has an identifiable pattern of delta waves. This stage is critical to restorative sleep, allowing for bodily recovery and growth. It may also bolster the immune system and other key bodily processes. Even though brain activity is reduced, evidence shows deep sleep contributes to insightful thinking, creativity, and memory consolidation. You spend the most time in deep sleep during the first half of the night. During early sleep cycles, N3 stages commonly last for 20 to 40 minutes. As you continue sleeping, these stages get shorter, and more time gets spent in REM sleep instead. You drink wine with dinner, you carry chronic stress from work into your bed. Each factor alone might seem minor, but they do not operate in isolation. They compound, they interact, they systematically dismantle the biological conditions your brain needs to enter and maintain deep, slow-wave sleep. A 2024 study published in Sleep Health found that patients who adhered to a structured sleep hygiene program for 12 weeks reported a 40% reduction in insomnia symptoms. Sleep hygiene means controlling your environment. Total darkness after sunset, room temperature between 60 and 67 degrees, no caffeine after noon, no alcohol within 4 hours of bedtime, no high-intensity exercise within 4 hours of sleep onset, stress management techniques like meditation or deep breathing exercises. They track their steps, they supplement with magnesium and melatonin, but they ignore the environmental and behavioral factors that have the largest measurable impact on sleep architecture. A 2025 Global Wellness Institute report noted that, according to a 2024 survey, 91% of frequent travelers are willing to pay up to 10% more for sleep-enhancing accommodations. 63% of travelers report worse sleep while away, with noise, lighting, and bedding as top disruptors. Leading hotels are tackling these issues head-on. Luxury wellness retreats combine cutting-edge biometric tracking with science-backed sleep coaching to optimize rest. There's a growing trend in advancements of treatment approaches for sleep apnea, including hypoglossal nerve stimulators and GLP-1 medications. In October 2024, the FDA approved the first GLP-1 for management of sleep apnea. Innovations in the sleep apnea management space highlight growing awareness about the disorder and new access to identify and treat it. But these are interventions for clinical sleep disorders. For most people, the problem is not a disorder. The problem is behavior. Your immune system needs it to defend. Your cardiovascular system needs it to recover. A 2024 study in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine noted that orthosomnia, the obsessive pursuit of perfect sleep through tracking technology, is itself causing psychological stress and sleep disruption. People fixate on numbers: sleep duration, sleep efficiency, REM percentage. They miss the fundamentals: light, temperature, timing, chemical intake. The data from wearable devices is useful only if it changes behavior. A 2024 Sleep Foundation article noted that many people work under artificial lights and constantly interact with the screens of electronic devices. Being aware of common sources of artificial blue light can help strategically time exposure and avoid circadian rhythm disruptions. The most effective way to reduce exposure to blue light in the evening is to simply turn off the sources. This means dimming or reducing LED and fluorescent lighting in your home and turning off electronic devices after it gets dark outside. Keep your bedroom at 65 degrees even if it feels cold initially. Finish your workout by 6 in the evening. Drink water instead of wine with dinner. Practice 10 minutes of deep breathing before bed to lower cortisol. These are not hacks. These are the basic environmental conditions humans evolved to sleep under for hundreds of thousands of years. Darkness at night, cool temperatures, physical exhaustion earlier in the day, minimal chemical stimulants. The modern world has inverted every single one. We flooded our nights with artificial light. We heated our homes to comfortable temperatures that disrupt thermoregulation. We consume stimulants late into the evening. We exercise at night when our bodies are trying to wind down. We sedate ourselves with depressants that fragment sleep architecture. Then we wonder why we wake up exhausted. A 2024 study published in Nature Communications examining sleep tracking innovations noted that modern wearable trackers prioritize comfort and style. Rings and lightweight smartwatches fit seamlessly into your routine. Devices like the Virtu AI Diamond Ring track sleep stages, oxygen levels, and even blood glucose. These advancements provide deeper understanding of sleep health. The design of wearable devices has improved. Today's wearables prioritize comfort and style. Early devices focused on basic metrics like movement and heart rate. Modern innovations now offer comprehensive health monitoring. Devices track sleep stages, oxygen levels, and blood glucose. These advancements provide deeper understanding of sleep health. But the data is meaningless if you do not act on it. If your device shows you're getting only 12% deep sleep instead of the normal 20 to 25%, the question is not what supplement to take. The question is, what behavior is destroying it? The answer is almost always in the 6 hours before you go to bed. The studies are not small. They are not based on self-reported data. They track millions of nights of objective sleep data from wearable devices linked to health outcomes. The mechanisms are understood. Blue light suppresses melatonin through melanopsin-expressing retinal ganglion cells. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors and remains active for hours after consumption. Alcohol fragments sleep architecture during metabolization. High ambient temperatures prevent core body temperature reduction necessary for deep sleep onset. Evening exercise elevates sympathetic nervous system activity and core body temperature. Chronic stress dysregulates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and elevates evening cortisol. Each factor alone has measurable effects. Combined, they obliterate the biological conditions necessary for restorative sleep. They are measured in years of life: cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's pathology. These are not separate from sleep. They are downstream effects of chronic deep sleep deprivation. A body that cannot enter deep, slow-wave sleep cannot clear toxic proteins from the brain, cannot consolidate memories, cannot repair damaged tissue, cannot regulate metabolism, cannot maintain immune function. The system breaks, slowly and visibly. You wake up every day feeling unrested and you think it is normal. It is not normal. It is the cumulative effect of 1,000 small choices that prioritize convenience over biology. No alcohol within 4 hours of sleep. Stress management through meditation or breathing. These interventions cost nothing. They require no supplements, no devices, no prescriptions. They require only the willingness to prioritize sleep over comfort, entertainment, and habit. Most people will not do it. They will continue scrolling at midnight, drinking coffee at 3, keeping their thermostats at 73, hitting the gym at 8, pouring wine at dinner, carrying stress into bed, and they will wake up exhausted. They will wonder why. The study was published in Nature Communications in October 2025. That same year, a team in China analyzed 23 million sleep records and found that for every 10 degrees Celsius temperature increase, Deep sleep dropped by 2.82 minutes, published in Nature Communications, March 2025. In July 2024, a Nature Medicine study tracked 6,785 people over 4.5 years and found that deep sleep was inversely associated with atrial fibrillation, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. In January 2026, Oregon Health and Science University published analysis showing sleep correlates with life expectancy more strongly than diet or exercise. Only smoking was more predictive. These are not opinions, these are measurements. It is not a luxury for people with good genetics or low stress. It is a biological requirement. Your brain evolved to need it. Every mammal needs it. Every bird needs it. Every animal with a complex nervous system requires periods of slow-wave sleep to function. Humans are no exception. The difference is that we have built an environment that makes it nearly impossible to achieve. We have engineered the destruction of our own sleep, deliberately, for convenience, for productivity, for entertainment. And now we are paying the price in years of life, quality of health, and cognitive function. The data is clear, the mechanisms are understood, the interventions are known. What remains is choice.